I never knew coaching was a career at all when I grew up. Even when I told my friends here, some of my friends were like, oh, coaching is for celebrities or only for the rich and famous and, top executives. Because a lot of people don't know about coaching. And for me, that was the case. I did not know. And once I knew, I'm like, that's it. That's for me for the rest of my life, because I get excited helping others, right? I don't have to be paid. I can be talking here all day. If you hear any nugget of wisdom, that you pick up that you can implement in your life, I'm happy with that.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast. Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you're from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in and spending your time with us. We do appreciate it. If you're new here, welcome. We bring you stories from people right here in the San Gabriel Valley. And if you're a returning listener, we do appreciate you checking out the show again. Well, if you're watching the show, you'll see that I'm on camera and where's Scott? Scott is not with us today. He's feeling a little bit ill, but don't fear. This is our fourth or fifth time doing the show without him. So Victoria and I will be just fine. Well, we were trying to think of a tie into the guest this morning. And I thought, well, what about our podcast journey? Because our guest is related to that. And when people walk in here, Tori, they see the lights, they see this, and they're like, wow, this looks so professional. But the truth is, we started knowing nothing. Right? Yeah. We knew nothing about everything. We had to learn and research. And, so what is it like for you, from your perspective, from when you first started, to help out the show to now?
It's pretty cool. First, I was, just editing the audio and doing that. And then I started coming into where we first started, which is Scott's home in Pasadena. It was then, and helping out set up the set and do all the recordings, then taking it home and editing. And then moved on to the video editing. And then we moved into the studio and just setting that up. Has been pretty cool seeing all the upgrades that we've done. Yeah,
it has been really cool, right? Because we were on these little camcorders at first, right? Yeah. And then when we first got here, it didn't look like this. We went through maybe 5 or 6 or 7 iterations of the studio, and to where it is now. And it's interesting that people come in, they feel like, oh, this is so professional, but we just are figuring it out along the way, yeah. Right? But I would say that people don't know what you do, all that you do, but you're like this glue to the show. Not only the things that you mentioned, but you're managing the guests from start to finish. Making sure that they're here, they know what to bring, preparing them, and then the follow-up afterwards. So even though people don't see your face on the show, the guests certainly feel you. I certainly feel you, and Scott feels you, that you're holding it all together, and we really appreciate that. So, well, that was a different direction it was going, but yeah, thank you, Tori.
Yeah, thank you.
So the tie-in for the show is, the podcast, and our guest today has a podcast. And before I want to introduce her, I want to remind you that San Gabriel Valley Now is your source for city news, announcements, events, special savings, and everything SGV. Check them out on Instagram, sgv.now, and read their SGV Now magazine on their website, sgvnow.com. Carlos, who runs that site, also reposts our stuff, and he's a big fan of the show. He's a big fan of the SGV, and we really appreciate Carlos and what they do over there. And this is the second week. Shout out to Paris Baguette in San Gabriel for sponsoring the refreshments and pastries for the show. So that's another treat that we get to offer to our guests. So we hope you look forward to that. So our guest today, she is a coach, speaker, author, and host of her own podcast, The Lucy Liu Show. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Russell. I am beyond excited to be here.
Oh, great. I'm excited to have you. Yeah. So I mentioned that you are all those things, but before we get into those, what is your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
Oh, wow. I love the San Gabriel Valley. I am the person always explaining to others, where is San Gabriel Valley? Because Los Angeles, it's so big, right? I go to events on the west side or in the valley, and I'm like, where are you from? I'm from the San Gabriel Valley. Then obviously I have to explain where that is because a lot of people don't know. But I think for people who's lived here for a long time, there is that pride in living in this beautiful valley. And I personally have lived in El Monte. I've lived in Rosemead. I went to elementary school in San Gabriel, actually down the street. I went to Washington. I went to Jefferson. And then we moved to Temple City. I went to Oak Avenue. And then I moved to Monrovia. I went to Santa Fe. We just moved a whole bunch of times.
Wow.
And eventually we moved again to Arcadia. So I went to First Avenue. I went to Arcadia High. And it's just been a journey for me throughout the San Gabriel Valley. So I actually moved around quite a bit until we settled down. And yeah, I'm still in Arcadia today. And when I went to college, I went to UCLA. So I did move to the west side for a bit for school. And actually, my husband is Taiwanese. So after I graduated college, we actually moved to Taiwan. So I've been in Taiwan for the past 20 years, and we just moved back again in Arcadia. So of course we did come back every year for vacation, but just through it all, I think through this journey, I think in my heart, this is where home is.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. What really struck me at first was how many different cities within the San Gabriel Valley you've lived in. And it sounded like a lot of that happened at a very young age.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know what the reason for that was?
Well, definitely. My parents started with nothing. They actually came to America 2 years before me. When I was very young, I stayed with my grandma, and they were actually in New York. And they did move around quite a bit in New York. And they moved to Jersey, and they just somehow felt it wasn't right for bringing their kid to bring me over. So they actually just took 2 suitcases with nothing else, and they moved to California in search of a better place for me, a better future for me, higher hope for my education. So they moved around quite a bit. They were renting, and they were just making ends meet. And so we really came from very humble backgrounds. And that's why I'm very grateful for my parents, because they were very well respected in China. My mom was a doctor and my dad was a businessman, and they gave up everything so they can just provide a better future for me. So after we landed in the San Gabriel Valley and they brought me over, and obviously they wanted a better city, so they kept moving around until what they felt was a better school system for me to be in. And that's why we ended up in Arcadia. And truth be told, I actually disappointed them because they didn't need to do that. They did all that hard work to bring me to where I was, but I actually dropped myself out of high school. So I did not graduate from Arcadia High. At the time, I felt like I was behind, even though I had straight A's. I had straight A's in every class, and I had a perfect GPA. I still felt behind. I felt like there was more to life. I wanted to rush through life. I guess I was following what society deemed as the shiny object syndrome, right? I was chasing what's out there, what's always ahead, and I always felt behind. So I took what we call the California Proficiency Test. So that's a little tiny piece of paper that's equivalent to a high school diploma. And with that, I was able to go to Mount SAC and eventually transferred myself to UCLA, where I graduated.
Wow. I'm sensing that there's this, journey towards being present, but just because the way I'm perceiving you now, that must have been quite difficult to be uprooted so frequently as a little kid.
I was very fortunate to grow up with a personality. I know when I tell this story, people are like, that is so hard. But for me, I guess that was the easy part. I think a lot of times, once, 20 years down the line, we're talking about our stories, and in hindsight, what you see is a lot different than in the situation, right? Just like how now I'm telling the story after I became a coach, after I got on interviews, and people ask me and I'm telling the story, and people's like, whoa, that was a bold move, right? But at the time, it didn't feel that way to me. I didn't feel like I was making bold moves, or I didn't feel I was special. I didn't feel like I was anybody doing anything different. And I think that's the same with challenges we face, right? No matter what challenge you're going through now, right? 3 years, 5 years down the road, in hindsight, it's going to be easy. It's not going to be as difficult as you think it would be.
Yeah. Can you go back to you're in Arcadia High School, you're getting great grades, and what was going through your mind, or what led up to this thought that you're so behind and to eventually take action to drop out?
Yeah, I think it was just this constant feeling of feeling behind. I was looking forward to getting into society. I was making friends that were older. I was looking forward to having a job and making money and, living the life what society told you to do, how things look like on TV, or, just really living a life beyond school. But I love school. I never had a problem with school.
So how did your parents react to you leaving?
They were like, right, we moved around, we tried to get you into a top school, and yeah, that was all useless, right? But I think our parents, of course, I felt like I disappointed them in some ways. And I think as Asian kids, especially, or in many cultures, we always feel like we're disappointing others. And this disappointment stuck with me. But it's a lot of self-shaming. We self-shame into our own stories. But I think in the end, when I did transfer to UCLA, my parents were proud of me. And I feel like they're just there for our best interest. And our brain and our parents are just really there to protect us. Even though they might say harmful things or they might act like they're disappointed, but deep and down, they just want the best for us.
Sure. So you figured out a way to get to UCLA. And so what did you study there? And then,
I studied economics.
And then how did you move to Taiwan for 20 years?
So I came from a very entrepreneurial family. My grandpa did a business. My dad was a businessman, and my husband, their whole family owns a business. And at the time, their business in Taiwan was really busy, and they needed us, so they really wanted us to go back. And that would lead into another whole story, because I interned I was going into finance. Having studied economics, I was going into finance. But during my internship, I felt like it wasn't for me again. Like, I did all this. I studied really hard. I hustled my way through community college. I was taking classes from morning, like 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., just so I can finish more classes to get into UCLA. And I did well, and I'm graduating. I'm interning at the most prestigious office in Century City. My managers were managing funds for athletes, for top Hollywood A-listers. Everyone in the office was making millions of dollars a year. And I know I would be financially set there as well, but it just didn't make me happy. Like, I can do the work, but I wasn't happy doing it. It didn't align with my life. So that was another bold move I actually made and took. And I just left all that behind and went to Taiwan to work on the family business.
Wow. What was the family business?
Manufacturing. It was very traditional manufacturing.
So I'm shocked at that, because I want to know what you got and felt rewarding to stay there for so long. But I think you sort of skipped over, you met your husband sometime in this process, yes?
We were actually classmates in middle school in Arcadia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've known him for a very long time.
We were friends forever. So we were friends. We had a group of friends that we all hung out together with. Yeah. But we didn't get together until later on. But yeah.
Do you have siblings?
No, I'm the only child.
I sense that, and I just want to confirm. So you left this job in Century City to go to Taiwan to work a manufacturing job, and you stayed there for 20 years.
Yeah.
What did you find rewarding or fulfilling in that?
I think is, again, my ability to adapt to different environments, because I think that's one of the top reasons I became a coach, is because while I was in Taiwan, the top question I got was, how do you get through life without friends? Well, I make friends, right? How do you get through life without support? Well, support is always readily available if you seek it, right? From coaches, from groups, from, people. People ask, well, how do you stay positive, right? So I started to feel like, so it wasn't easy for other people, but so I saw that it was a natural, I guess, superpower that I had to see the positive perspectives through negative challenges. And not to say that I don't have problems or challenges myself, but we as coaches just have tools. And I'm sure you have a lot of toolkit, Russell, right?
Sure.
But and just living and deciding to live a certain way, I feel like. And another question I got a lot was, how do you feel like being missing out on all the action, right? And I feel like I also learned the lesson of having joy missing out as well.
Having joy missing out.
Yeah, because I think in today's society, a lot of people are so anxious because they feel like if they don't do certain things, they don't go certain events, or they don't make certain friends, they're missing out in life. And I feel like because I was living in a foreign country, I actually really enjoyed, I had joy of missing out on certain events, because then I realized who my true friends are. I had a couple of friends who went to visit in Taiwan. They went to visit me. That's my entertainment, right? I had fun. So it's really the people who are meant to stay in your life will stay. And the events that you're meant to attend, you will be there. And I definitely believe that everything happens for the best now.
Wow. Yeah. I keep finding myself amazed at your story. Who are these people asking you these questions in Taiwan?
Oh, friends here. I've definitely, thanks to social media, right? We still keep in touch with our friends from childhood in the San Gabriel Valley.
I see. Okay. So you're discovering this superpower as you described it while you're in Taiwan. And then does it start percolating in your mind, this idea of how you can help more people with this skill while you're in Taiwan?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I started my coaching. I was following people on social media, and I met up with a local coach in Pasadena. She was a business coach, and we met up for coffee. And I was telling her, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to move back in a couple years, and I will hire you to start my coaching business. And she was like, why? Why do you have to wait? We always have these reasons why we have to wait for things to happen, and even myself included. And because I hired my first business coach, that's when I had my first client myself. Because when you show up for yourself, other people see that and get inspired, and then they are inspired to work on their own dreams. And I think I never knew coaching was a career at all when I grew up. And even when I told my friends here, some of my friends were like, oh, coaching is for celebrities, or only for the rich and famous and, top executives. Because a lot of people don't know about coaching. And for me, that was the case. I did not know. And once I knew, I'm like, that's it. That's for me for the rest of my life, because I get excited helping others right? I don't have to be paid. I can be talking here all day. If you hear any nugget, of wisdom, that you pick up that you can implement in your life, I'm happy with that. And that just makes my day.
Oh, so you started your coaching business before you returned?
Yeah, so I've been coaching for 4 years now, and it's been, because of the pandemic, it's been over Zoom. And I've worked with clients from Hong Kong, from Europe, from all over America.
Wow. Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. But before we do, Lucy, we ask each guest to bring an item with them. What did you bring with you today?
So today I brought these, I don't know. So these are wooden handcrafted items. So this is one of the first things that me and my husband actually bought, and we bought at this craft show. And I brought these is because when I think of my childhood, like each year, I really, really looked forward to going to these local arts and craft shows. They used to hold them at the Arcadia Masonic Center, and I don't know if they have them. And I think towards the end, even if they had them, they're not as big as how they used to be. And I know with shopping on Amazon and shopping online, it's just been different. And I think in my memory, there's always a place for mom and pop shops or local artists that come together to present their work or do handcrafted items on the spot. That just amazes me, and I really miss that.
Oh, thank you for bringing this. Could you describe this for the listening audience who may not be able to see it?
Yeah, it's a table stand wooden item that is carved and made on the spot. And at the time, I just made my name and my husband's name. And that was one of the first presents he got me at this local art show that I really enjoy as a child going to these art shows. And I really I've worked with a couple of creatives, and I encourage them to join local conventions or shows that you can go and showcase your art, because a lot of people are just shy to put their work out there. But trust me, there are people out there like me who are just really waiting to check out your amazing artwork and buy some home.
I can feel her positivity, right? Can you? Yeah, I think people, in your presence would feel that and definitely, want some of that. So I want to go back to your coaching. So you discovered that coaching is this thing, and you're 100% in on it. You hire a business coach. And how is it with your very first client?
So to be honest, my first client was my best friend from childhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. She was like, oh, wow, you hired a coach. Like, you're serious about this. And she was like, well, I need help. Like, there are things I want in my life that she hired me on the spot. I'm sure to show support as well, but she actually came to me to grow her side hustle. So at the time, she moved to a new city, and then she was growing her side hustle. And we were just like strategizing her business, what she's going to do, how she's going to market, things like that. And she was like, coaching is amazing. She did not know about coaching as well. So she became a coach as well. So today she is hosting her workshops. She is speaking. So that's been amazing.
Wow. There's so many good feeling stories that you're sharing with us. And so I think you said you've been coaching for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And during that time, when did you said you were an author also?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So during the pandemic, I co-authored in 2 books. So both of these books were about 17 or 18 ladies. One book is called The Rising Sisterhood, and the other book is called Asian Women Who Boss Up. So actually 18 of us were all Asian, some half Asian. And it was just a really fun project for us to do because we want to inspire others to live their best life, obviously to boss up, really to boss up for ourselves. Because when we were younger, we think of people who are bossy as just bossy, but in reality, bossy could mean just leadership, right? You're taking the lead. You are having confidence in where you're going. And I think that's what I am all about, is about confidence, but I'm not about the loud confidence. I'm all about calm confidence. Like, I feel there's such a big myth about people who think they have to be loud to be confident. And I think that's not true. And that is the myth I want to debunk. You can be quiet. I could be the quiet one in the room. I don't have to talk. I still would be the confident one. So it's all inner work. It's who you decide to be instead of who you think you should be.
Yeah, that's a great message. My wife and I say to our oldest that she has leadership skills, and repeat that often, so that whenever she's encountered someone who says that she's bossy or uses that she can counter that right away and know what they're saying. Yeah, I know it's unfortunate that women especially get labeled that for the same skill or behavior as a man. Yeah. So that's awesome that you're spreading that message. And so where does the podcast come in?
Oh, wow. So I was working with my business coach, and she was just interviewed on this podcast. It's called The Tao of Self-Confidence. It is probably the #1 Asian hosted show right now. It's hosted by Sheena Yap Chan. I'm giving her a shout out because I love her.
The Tao, T-A-O?
Yes, the Tao of Self-Confidence. It's got millions of downloads, and she just came out with a book called The Tao of Self-Confidence, because that was the first podcast interview that I was on ever. And just on the first one, I fell in love. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so fun, right? And then I started listening to all these podcasts, and I started guesting on other podcasts, and I started to look into how to start a podcast. And the answer I got was always, from really successful podcasters. They were all talking about how they wish they started earlier. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to take action. So I decided, on the spot, that I'm going to start a podcast, because everyone says you should start as early as possible. So I launched my podcast in 45 days. And I'm not someone with 1 million followers. So obviously I'm the one that started from zero. Right. I started from zero on my IG account, and I still remember the day I was like, oh my goodness, when am I going to ever pass 200 followers? Right. So we all start from zero.
Sure.
And that's how I got started, and I just fell in love. And I think that is the #1 reason people don't reach their goals, is because they're not having enough fun.
Yeah. So you already answered my question, but when I look at your podcast, I already know you're in an elite space, because most stop after 10 or before 10, and very few even make it to 25. And I know that the reason for doing it is why they stop, right? So talk about what is your reason for the podcast, other than you said it's fun and you enjoy it. What are some other reasons that you continue to do it?
It is my way to provide free content, and I can point when someone has a specific topic or challenge in their business or life. I can suggest a specific episode to maybe solve their problem on the spot, or at least give them some different perspective. I like to keep my shows from anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. As business owners, we're probably very busy, unless you have it on your background while at work. But other than that, I like to keep them short, so it's like a short dose of inspiration. And I even listen to my own podcast when I need to. I know where certain episodes will, give me that dose of inspiration when I need it. So, yeah. And then besides having fun, it inspires me. And because I'm providing this free content, I'm more confident in charging people. I think as a beginner business owner, there's always this tug of war between, right, are you charging too much or too less? But I feel like if I am providing, I am putting this out there, right? If you binge watch or listen to my podcast from the very beginning, I guarantee you will have a better life or business, right? That's how confident I am in providing these doses, because I know I was inspired by my guests. So that's why I'm confident in doing the work that I do.
I know that your guests are all women. Can you share your reasons for that?
I mean, I have no problem with men, right? I have many guy friends. Yeah, I just felt at the point, I felt women have more problems with overthinking, to be honest. And there was a Google study where it said that men would apply to jobs when they are 60% ready, or they feel they fit about 60% of the job description, whereas women don't apply until they feel they fit 100% to the job description. So there is actually a discrepancy there. There is a difference. And I think for business owners, female business owners, that's even worse. From my experience, I don't think we go for things until we are like 150% sure that everything's in place, right? We're always worried. So definitely there is a point of women empowerment that I want to put out into the world. But I don't know, when the show gets bigger, I'm open to having male guests in the future.
I didn't mean to frame it in a way that made it like that you had anything against men. I wanted to give you an opportunity to share sort of the reasons why you may gravitate toward that group. What has it been like for you, both coaching and having the podcast? Are you loving it? Are you learning new things all the time?
Absolutely. I am always learning. I mean, like you talked about how this, right? It's not the same as where you started, and that's not where I started. I started my podcast with my old headset, gaming headset, with nothing. And in the first 30 episode, I would say, a lot of my guests even recorded on their iPhones. So you can start anywhere if you want to, right? Eventually, you can upgrade to a better mic. And it's an endless game. There are mics, the good mics for $100. There are good mics for $5,000, right? So don't let that keep you. I mean, if someone here in our audience is thinking about starting a podcast, get started. Have fun along the way.
Yeah, so many people who are coaching others or putting information out there say the exact same thing, right? Like, just start with your iPhone. Just start with the very basics. And I remember entering this space, and we were fortunate that Scott, could purchase a lot of this stuff from the beginning. But yeah, this idea of just going. And was it terrifying for you the first time you hit record? Because it was really terrifying for me. My heart was racing. I felt so nervous. Yeah. So what was, or I imagine it maybe felt more comfortable for you.
It was, but I was, like I said, I was on a lot of podcast interviews beforehand. And yes, in the beginning on that first interview, I couldn't even sleep the night before.
Oh no.
So yes, you always get nervous, but I feel like, or at least I tell myself or my clients, it's not nervousness, it's excitement. It's really more because our bodies feel the same when we are nervous and excited, right? Our palms get sweaty, we kind of stutter, or like you just lose sleep. These things happen when you're nervous, but they also happen when you're excited.
Sure.
Like, right, if we're going on a trip, like every time we go abroad or go on a vacation, I'm really up at 4 a.m. because I'm so excited. So don't think of it as scary or nervousness. Just think of it as excitement.
And are you telling your guests for your show also this? Like, because they must get nervous also, right, coming on?
So a lot of my guests are already really speakers or authors and coaches, and many have their own podcasts. So to me, they're all really, really super phenomenal, remarkable women already. But yes, some of them, when like before I hit the record button, they're like, whew, I'm so nervous because I listened to this episode and they were like so amazing. And then, once we hit record, they're like boom, boom, boom. And they're just like, oh my gosh, so charismatic, so good.
Wow. Well, Lucy, I want to get into some of the stories that come out from your coaching, maybe some of the strategies that you use, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Warmouth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. Their multicultural staff have been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast.
All right, we're back with Lucy. That was funny before the break. When we come back from the break, we like to ask questions from these cards, as you know. So we're like, oh no, I hope it's not really penetrating. This is from Icebreakers, and you can choose to answer it or not. Victoria, this is for you too. What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their lives?
Well, for me, I would think definitely to go somewhere you never thought you would go. Like, I never in my mind would think I would move to Taiwan. I never expected that.
Yeah. What about you, Victoria?
I think traveling as well. I've been to different countries now, and each time it's pretty cool. So I'd say like travel somewhere, even if it's just like to another state if you can't go abroad, I guess.
See, I think everyone talks about traveling, but a lot of times we don't do it. Like, I was like that. I was like, I want to go here, I want to go there, I want to travel the world, but like we really actually just talk about it. So this year I actually took the initiative to really travel. So this year I've been to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, Bali, Australia. So
in this year alone?
This year alone.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So I feel like it's one thing to say it, but it's another to actually do it.
Yeah. Wow. I think people should spend time speaking with older people, old people. And they can be relatives, but they can also just be someone, who's lived in a different time and listen to their stories. And I think no matter where they come from, what they did as a profession, you're going to learn something like really tremendous from them. They lived in a totally different time. And I remember in 7th grade, as part of an elective, went to this home in Monterey Park. And we spoke to the elderly once a week. My person, her name was Jane. She was 94 years old. Just an incredible experience, just sitting with them for 5 minutes and hearing a story. Incredible. So for our audience, what is something you think everyone should do at least once in their lives? Leave us a comment and we'll read it in a future show. So Lucy, back to you and your coaching. Do you have a story of a client or a situation that really inspired you to search for a solution for them, or that you got really excited about, or maybe the outcome was really exciting?
The outcome. Okay, so the first one that came to mind was a client that we worked together on her boundaries.
Okay.
And I think, especially when it comes to work, it's a lot harder to keep those boundaries because you don't want to lose a client. So she had problems with her boundaries and her calendar. But for me, one of the first things I work with my client is on their calendar. Because, going back to how we want to live our life, a lot of us have work schedule, right? Of course, if you're working 9 to 5, that's inevitable that time is blocked off of your calendar. But for the times that you do have, or if you are a business owner, again, many make the mistake of putting work on their calendar first. And they talk about traveling, they talk about going to the gym, they talk about doing all the things they want to do, but they don't get to it because it's not on their calendars, right? So that's one of the first things we worked on together, is to make room for fun, right? To schedule 3 meals, to schedule your dinner time, to schedule your dog walking time, is to have really all those non-negotiables that you want to have in life first before anything else. That's the only way that you're going to keep going for the long run, right? Of course, hustling, working hard, it does work, but it only works so far. You can only keep going so far. And if you're in your business or your life for the long run, you really have to keep those boundaries, to keep your non-negotiables first attended. That's how you're going to have a good life. And for her, after doing so, she tried to stick to her boundaries. And when a client asked to push their work earlier, she was really freaked out. She was like, should I stick to it? Or should I, just give up my own non-negotiables and attend to her work? And in the end, she chose to stick to her schedule. So she told her client, I have your work time scheduled on my calendar for this specific time next week. So I'll get to it for sure. And she said after she messaged her client, she was messaging me. She was like, I'm so nervous. Like, what if she gets mad, or what if I lose this client? But to her surprise, her client actually replied that she really respected her for what she was doing, that she was very organized, that she had time scheduled, and that she really respected that. So she was worried for nothing. So I think a lot of times that's how we are in life. We think if we say no to someone else, it's like the end of the world, right? But it's not. It's okay. There's always ways to work around it. Or if we, don't push or don't rush through certain things, it's still okay.
I'm familiar with boundaries and this lesson, and I've seen it illustrated in a jar with large rocks and small rocks and sand, and I'm sure you're familiar with this analogy. Where did you come across this, and how did you gain this knowledge for yourself?
I think it is interest. I think all these resources and valuable, of course, I am certified. I did go through training, but I think if you are interested in something, right? I'm interested in personal development, so I live and breathe this. I listen to motivational speeches every day. That's like my fuel for my mind. Just like how we fuel our physical body, there are different modalities to keep you stress-free. And you have, I always say every guru is right, every coach is right. They're right for their people. But you have to find your people. You have to find what works for you. For example, if you want to de-stress, right? Do you get massages? You do yoga? There's breath work, Reiki. There's just millions of modalities that can work for you. But it doesn't work for everybody. But you got to try it on. Keep an open mind to try these different things. And for me, like during the pandemic, my modalities were different than usual. Right? Maybe your meditation times would be different. And the books you read, what interests you through different periods of our life, it might be different, but you got to put that as priority to find out what works for you.
Do you coach, I imagine you do, clients through when they learn to set boundaries, when they've been a person their whole life who have never set boundaries, and then they encounter the person who was comfortable violating their boundaries and what that's like? Because often people who are used to violating boundaries, they feel it as an offense, right? So I'm curious, do you encounter that with your clients?
Not so much, because I feel like fortunately, they've had good results. But I understand what you're saying, because I know I've heard of other stories like that, where people are just really offended by your boundaries. But I think you get to teach people how to react and how to live with you, right? We're like a mirror, how you teach people to treat you. Because if you're always letting that happen, you're teaching them that it's okay to let it happen. So it's really about decision making. I think decision making is really big, is on the daily decisions that you make, that your future self will thank you for.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to the person out there who is in conflict with themselves because they don't set boundaries, they agree to so much, and then they end up feeling so bad about not speaking up?
I like that question. I think it's a lot of overthinking that we do. I say I'm an ex-overthinker. I'm an ex-perfectionist, right? It's who you choose to be again, because I choose to let go of overthinking. So I try to tell myself that I'm a recovering overthinker. I'm an ex overthinker because I've decided that that's no longer a part of me. But I know overthinking is really big. I've had a client who told me that, Lucy, I just spend an hour overthinking on how I've been overthinking lately. So not only do we overthink, we actually spend time really to put ourselves down that why are we overthinking? And I think it's such a time waster and it's an energy drainer. Because what we focus on growth. So if you're focusing on all the things that you're overthinking, right? These problems might become monsters. And if we're focusing on the right things, that's going to grow as well.
Is the antidote to overthinking just to focus on moving forward?
I think there's a lot of different aspects to that. And I'm sure you're aware of that too. There's different tools and different techniques, and they all add up, right? Like practicing gratitude, because you're seeing a different perspective in life instead of what you see now, right? So it's the daily routines that add up. It's the daily habits. It's our thoughts. Everything just adds up. It's not a one day job. It's a habit. It's a ritual. It's your routine. It's your life. It's your life of choosing. And I always say that how you choose to live your life is your decision. Do you truly make that decision? For example, I've decided that I'm going to be an optimistic person. I call myself an eternal optimist. Was there ever times that I'm not optimistic? Of course, yes. Right? I was super shattered the day Kobe died. I blanked out. And I remember that day I posted on social media, I'm like, this optimist is completely shattered. I took the day off. I didn't do any work. I needed my time to heal. But I know it's temporary because I choose to be optimistic. I know that it's like we have a target. We can't be bullseye every single time. But when you do have a target, when you know who you choose to be, when you know where you're going, at least you have a target to get back to that. And knowing that when you don't hit the target, it's just temporary.
Yeah, there's so many gems and nuggets there. I hope the audience really appreciates what they're getting here. I certainly do, and thank you so much for sharing all that with us and with our audience. Lucy, we're going to move on to the final segment of our show where we get to learn a little bit more about you and the San Gabriel Valley. Lucy, this is the SGV3, where we get to learn from you your favorite places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So, Lucy, what is number one?
Oh my goodness. There's so many great places in San Gabriel Valley. And I know the first one I'm going to say a couple episodes back, Asia also mentioned it. It's the Monrovia Street Fair. I grew up going there. There's the petting zoo, farmers market, lots of vendors, restaurants along both sides. We walk around. I always like to go Yogurtland to grab yogurt afterward when I'm tired as well. And I know she said it, but I'm going to repeat it because it's a decent place now, but it's still not at its peak pre-pandemic. So I hope more people get out there, and it's just a great place to be.
I went there in August, so it's a little bit hot, and it was hot, warm nights, and they had a whole thing of like blow up attractions for kids there. Mm-hmm. But I still think it was smaller than it used to be.
Yeah, there used to be more blow ups,
and I don't think there was the petting zoo there. I have seen it there before, though.
No, I went last week.
There's a petting zoo still?
Yeah, Friday night, 5 to 9. There's a tiny petting zoo, but it'll do if you have younger children.
And was there a live band?
Yeah, there was live band. Mm-hmm.
And what's number two? Number
2, I would have to say Lacey Park.
Okay.
So I mean, every park, like Arcadia Park. I mean, even the little park down the street from here that I used to go to, they're all great. But I don't know. There's just something about Lacey Park and the tall palm trees. When I go, it just really grounds me. I just walk in the circle along the trail, and they have pretty much three size of tracks there. So if you want to go a little round or a big round, you get to choose, and it really get grounded there.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful place. Have you ever been there? Yeah, it's beautiful. Large park. I think it's like a rose garden there also.
And lots of benches, and just to sit and really reflect and ground yourself.
Awesome. And what's number 3?
Number 3, I try to think of a restaurant that so I am vegetarian, and one of the restaurants that we go to weekly is called Happy Buddha Kitchen Vegetarian Restaurant. It's on Rosemead, next to Office Depot, Rosemead and Broadway in St. Gabriel.
Okay.
So it is a Vietnamese restaurant.
Vietnamese vegetarian restaurant. Okay.
Yes. And we actually go with a lot of my meat lover friends, and they all agree that it's good. They have the Beyond Meat. Beyond Meat is a really large brand of imitation plant-based meat. So yeah, Beyond Meat pho. It's like for even meat lovers.
So they're serving meat-like dishes, but with Beyond Meat.
Yeah. Well, they also have a lot of vegetable choices.
What do you like to get there?
Oh, I need my pho at least once a week.
So you go there once a week for that? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Like, they have a lot of options, like rice dishes and everything.
I think there used to be like a hometown buffet in that shopping center. Okay, that's where it's close
yes.
to.
I miss hometown. I miss Soup Plantation. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. Is it closed now, huh? In
Soup
Arcadia?
Plantation was gone after the pandemic. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Wow. Well, Lucy, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with us, and your coaching insights. I can hear all of them, and I'm sure that the audience can also pick up on them. I hope that they could, but you shared a lot of valuable wisdom with us. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me, Russell, and for all the beautiful listeners, or if you're in front of the computer, believe that more blessings are coming your way.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. If someone wants to work with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, anywhere you're listening, just search The Lucy Liu Show. It's LUCYLIU, The Lucy Liu Show, anywhere podcast is available. And I'm most active on Instagram, and I'm at MSLUCYLIU.
Awesome. Lucy, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time with us and for agreeing to come on the show.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. There's another show for you. I really hope you got as much from the show as I did. Being a coach that I am, I can hear all of her wisdom and her skill there. And it takes a lot for a person to be able to help a person get from where they are to where they want to be. For me, that is very rewarding. I can see that's very rewarding to you as well, Lucy. And beyond the skills, beyond what she's sharing, I'm certain that her energy and optimism, as she said, also came through in the show. So check her out on her Instagram. And if you are liking this kind of content, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this. And you can find the full catalog of episodes on our website, mysgv.net. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Thank you for joining us on the My SGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Russell Mono and edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother, no kind mother.